joined with us. Madam, Ganesan sir is with us.
Very good morning, sir.
Yes, good morning, madam. How are you?
Yeah, doing well. How are you, sir?
Hello. Good morning. Sir, we start now, madam. Madam. Hello.
Hello. Yeah. Yes, sir. We can start.
Madam, shall we start now? Shall we start now?
Yeah, we can start, sir.
Good evening, madam. How are you?
Yeah, doing well, sir. I'm fine. Thank you for the opportunity. Nice to see you all today.
It is a wonderful thing because you are also a resource person of our seminar. Now we are also very glad you are able to give your valuable presentation here. You know, then
Yeah,
another
thank
thing.
you. Thank you for that.
Yes, another thing is also the, you are our alumni. So it is one of the, so that's why we are very happy to your arrival here. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir. I'm very proud. Feeling very privileged to be here with you all.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay. Because it is this seminar. Hello. 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 Hello.
Very good morning. We can start, Rama. Nandini, we can start.
Okay,
ma'am.
Sir,
please.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Madam. Hello. Shall we start now, madam?
Wait, sir wants to say something. Sir? Okay, sir, we can start. Sharp now, sir. We will start.
Okay.
Nandini, start, Rama.
Success is not the key to happiness. Happiness is the key to success. If you love what you do, you will be successful. A very good morning to one and all present here. Before we begin, dear participants, a kind information for you. Please mute your mic and turn off your video for better experience and to avoid interruption. On behalf of the organizing committee, I welcome you all for this 1 week online international faculty development program on Art of Effective Education During Pandemic Scenario, jointly organized by Tamil Nadu Teachers Education University, Chennai, and Lakshmi College of Education, Gandhigram. And today, we are at the 6th day of this faculty development program. At this juncture, I invite Dr. P. Ganeshan as a professor and head, Department of Pedagogical Science, Tamil Nadu Teachers Education University, to welcome the gathering. Welcome, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning. My voice is audible. Hello.
Yes,
Hello.
sir.
My voice is
Sir, it is
audible.
audible.
It is an echo is there.
Yes, yes.
Uh,
You have joined in two IDs, sir. You have joined in two IDs.
because I come to the two IDs here. Just wait. I erase in the idea. Hello.
Say audible, sir.
Audio, ma'am? Okay.
Yes, sir, audible. You continue, sir, please.
Hello. Good morning. Good morning, all of you. First of all, I thank to our Honorable Vice Chancellor. He is a man to motivate each and every professor, not only professor, the associate professor and assistant professors, and then our staff member also. He is a man to motivate, to introducing, and then we organizing different kinds of the webinar through this online mode. Why our Honorable Vice Chancellor given that one means? Because established our Tamil Nadu Teacher Education University, not only in Tamil Nadu, it is in abroad also. So I thanks all I have my Honorable Vice Chancellor and then our dignitaries of our administrative, our registrar and controller of examination and dean faculty, then our professors and all other things, all other person. Their blessing also herewith I introduce and then given the welcome address to the all the people. First of all, I thank the authorities and then our cooperative of Lakshmi College of Education because it is a good in the university also. So I hope accept actually welcome the secretaries of the Lakshmi College of Education, and I welcome all the participants here. And I mentioned I welcome the introducing chairpersons, Mr. Uma Mageshwari, and then I welcome the great women and the young women empowerment also, and our alumni, and she is a very effort, and she is also wants and extend his sincerity to the presentation here. That's why I wholeheartedly welcome the Priyadarshini Madam from Malaysia. She is willing to get all the degree. She is also get it. That means they present its valuable presentations of our webinar. So once again, on behalf of our team, I wholeheartedly welcome you, madam. Then I welcome the great person also given the vote of thanks, Dr. P. Vincent Rajsekhar. he is the man to given a fully support to the very grand and success of our uh, seminar. So I wholeheartedly, the committee members, I warmly welcome you, sir. And I welcome great the coordinator, the director, and the secretary, Dr. Mrs. Kalayvani Madam. She is a very skilled person to know how can organizing this seminar in very successful manner. Because each and every stage, each and every day we discuss about, sir, it is okay or not. Its meaning is, she is a very sincere and then skilled person in that the Lakshmi College of Education and warm welcome. I wholeheartedly welcome you, my madam, because I am not welcome because you are one among these one. But anyhow, I welcome you, madam. And then I welcome the great resource person from the Poland. First of all, the Christia and Agenda Vijudia and then Poland and Bosman shots and by is in Poland. The two big shots from the international level. So in the abroad level, the peoples are joined with us. Their peoples given their own ideas on what are the things we done it in this pandemic period. Yeah, on behalf of our university, on behalf of our Lakshmi College of Education, on behalf of the whole committee, I wholeheartedly welcome you, madam. And then I welcome the Tiruma. The great man here is also Devendra Tiruma. She is a well and a very good person. And then she is also well supported to our webinar. So I, behalf of the committee, I wholeheartedly welcome you, madam. And then I welcome and then given that the ceremony address given to us as the Nandini. So it is the team work. And not only this, how can its great success mean? The participants. So the participants are also throughout the 7 days, the 7 days program, it is the sixth day. In this sixth day also, all the peoples have joined with us and you get it that the knowledge of how can the art of a pedagogy and how can we approaches to the students in that the pandemic period. So all these things are also the expose, the peoples are also given to you. So that's why on behalf of the committee and then the university, I wholeheartedly welcome all the delegates from the world nations. So once again, I thank all of you given the great opportunity to introducing and then welcome others to the this great session in the sixth day. I once again you get it that the and you followed that one. Not only success of this, it is success of your life also. So thank you all the delegates from this great occasion. I thank Onda. I thank you all of you. Thank you. Thank you, Onda. Okay.
Thank you,
Yes,
sir,
madam.
for the earnest welcome. Now, I would like to
Kalayani,
call.
madam. Hello, Nandini,
Sir.
கேக்குதாமா?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
சார் கேக்குது முடிஞ்சு கேக்குது கேக்குது கேக்குது
நந்தினி கேக்குதாமா நான் பேசுறதுல பேசி முடிஞ்சு
Yes,
கேட்டுட்டே
sir.
இல்லையா? Hello.
Yes, sir. It is audible, sir. Everything is fine.
Hello.
Everything, sir. Audible.
Hello.
You are audible.
Hello. Madam.
Sir, audible, sir.
Hello. Hello. Hello, கேக்குதாமா?
Sir, yes, sir, clear,
Hello.
sir. Voice is clear, sir. Audible, sir.
கேக்குதா?
Everything is fine, sir. Okay, sir. Audible. We'll move
Hello.
on to
கேக்குதா?
next part. Nandini, you just continue, ma.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, sir, for the earnest welcome. Now, I would like to call upon Ms. M. Uma Mageshwari, Assistant Professor, Lakshmi College of Education, Gandhigram, to introduce the resource person. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you, Nandini. May I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Good morning to one and all present here. I am very happy to introduce today's resource person, young and energetic Dr. Priyadarshini Muthukrishnan, Senior Lecturer, Department of Education, Faculty of Behavioral Sciences, Education and Language, Help University, Malaysia. She completed BM course to know the language of Bahasa Melayu spoken language. Her BSc, MSc, B.Ed in Madras University, M.Ed, MPhil and PhD in Tamil Nadu Teacher Education University, Tamil Nadu. She worked as a senior secondary school chemistry teacher and senior club advisor in Pushpalata Vidya Mandir CBSE syllabus, Francis Xavier's Matriculation School and Sri Sathya Sai Matriculation School at Tirunelveli, India. She acted as a part of program leader cum lecturer, postgraduate program leader and B.Ed program leader in Faculty of Education, SCGA University, Selangor. She was worked as a senior lecturer. Currently, she involved in PhD, BEC, M.Ed program. She have been a resource person in 4 international webinars. She has written 4 articles in Scopus Indexed Journal. She conducted many workshops for M.Ed and PhD students. She presented her papers on many conferences like ICT and Multiple Intelligence, Role of ICT in Teachers at Chidambaram College of Education, and another one paper is Cluster Profiles of Achievement, Goal Orientations, Wellbeing Adolescents, 3rd Asia International Conference, University Technology, Malaysia. She awarded for gold medal in MPhil degree university examinations. In M.Ed and MPhil secured her first place in research methodology course. Now, she taken a part of our faculty development program on the topic of a focus on social emotional learning during COVID-19 pandemic. Welcome you, ma'am. On behalf of organizing committee and all, once again I welcome you, ma'am. I hand over the session to Dr. Priyadarshini, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Professor Uma Mageshwari, for the wonderful introduction. So, very good morning to one and all. And it's indeed a very special day for me to get connected with you all, being here in Malaysia during this lockdown time. It's kind of favoring the situation to see you all today. So first of all, I would like to express my thanks to Professor P. Ganesan sir, Tamil Nadu Teacher Education University, and also Ms. Kalevani ma'am, Assistant Professor at Lakshmi College of Education, for giving this opportunity. Somehow we get into contact, and it's a wonderful opportunity for me to be here today. So I also share my sincere thanks to our Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, Professor Pangajam Madam, the organizing secretaries and the committee members who have been working hard since this for the past a week like that, right? Yeah. So I'm also very privileged to share that I'm an alumnus of Tamil Nadu Teacher Education University. Okay, and it makes me feel very privileged to be here to share my knowledge on social emotional learning. Yes, so without further ado, let me just move on to the topic. Let me just share the screen first, my PowerPoint. Can anyone confirm that my sharing is visible there? Am I sharing?
You are presenting, madam, but your PPT is presenting, but your PPT is not shown.
Is it shown now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's good. Thank you for that. Okay, so the topic for today, given my time, 12:46, yeah, 50 minutes, I guess I should finish. So the topic for today is focus on social emotional learning during the COVID-19 pandemic. So we have been discussing over the week about how the pandemic situation has influenced us in various ways. And today's discussion, I have these discussion points that I would take you through in this presentation. So first, let us look at what is the school closure and what are the learning losses from the international organizations and data, and what are the pressing concerns, and from there we will see what are the demands for the future workforce, and we will see what is AI and EI and what are the challenges that we are about to go with in 2030. And therefore, moving further, we will see how the importance of social emotional learning. Okay, so then we will learn about, discuss about the framework and the teaching strategies that are required for SEL learning. Okay, and then what are the procedures or the policies and how are we going to deal with safe reopening of schools? And to the end, we will have the Q&A session. So this is how I have planned for today. Okay, so the next one is something we would like to first focus here on, the COVID-19 pandemic and how it has influenced the school closure, right? So it has brought us many challenges in everyday life. And we are facing a new set of challenges coming in and out on everyday basis and trying to cope with that since the onset of pandemic, what has been going on. And we have tried, we are going through such an experimental stage in education system. We are trying numerous possibilities where we could effectively deliver and teach using online platform. This is really an experimental stage, We have never expected such things will happen. And we are experimenting new ventures in edutech, applying edutech technologies and seeing how well we can carry on during this pandemic situation. And it has also disturbed and also tested, like our education system and policy responses, our capabilities in how well we can address the emergency situation, right? So then the long school closure, economic downturn, all this we have been discussing. And the very important one is the mental health and the physical fitness, especially coming to the education scenario, the teachers and the learners. Over the period of time, this past 15 months plus, how much we have gone through is very important. And it has also raised concerns on educational inequalities, digital divide, and so many, right? And very importantly is what I'm going to focus here is the school closure and how the learning losses have been, we have to face this challenge of learning losses and how are we going to overcome, right? And there are so many data from international organizations like the one here, the loss of $10 trillion is in terms of academic is affected from what is going on with the current setting, right? So there have been so many challenges that we are focusing in this pandemic situation. Now, what are the pressing or compelling questions that we have and what we need as educators we need to address? Now, we have been trying with the trial and error method of online teaching using various applications, everything coming like in a mushroom growth over this 1 year, so many new applications, educational technology and instructional applications. And how are they effective? How well, we try to use those applications, but is it effective? Is questionable. We are yet to uncover the realities, the use of various technologies. And the learning loss is still continuing. We have now 1 year, almost one academic year has passed, and now we are into the second academic year in most of the countries. We are moving on to the next academic year, and still we are facing the situations where we cannot reopen the schools. And now our children are far behind the curriculum. That is what has happened in the last year is not delivered. We try to deliver, but how effective we don't know. And therefore, this has resulted in a long-term learning losses. So we are looking at a short-term learning loss, like what should be done for this week or this month or for this term. But think about the long-term learning losses that are accompanied with that in a subtle way that we are yet to uncover those repercussions there. Right. So then we are coming up with the remedial learning programs. And how are we going to overcome the learning losses? And what are the mitigating or the support that we really need to overcome this learning loss or to achieve, at least to a certain extent, the expected learning outcomes? These are some pressing concerns that we are going through this as educators. And also, like, we are now thinking about reopening the school in the new normal. How are we going to strengthen a new curriculum? Now, the curriculum that we are still holding on is designed for face-to-face delivery. It is not for a hybrid learning or completely online learning. The future is not going to be completely face-to-face, some 60-40 or 70-30, whatever it is, right? So different countries may come up with adopting different this hybrid learning system policies. Now, we are in a challenge to design a new set of curriculum standards that could cater to the need of learner needs and also for the hybrid curriculum or online learning, right? So these are some of the pressing challenges that I would like to highlight that are more relevant to the topic for today. So let's have a look at this data which is a very recent one from OECD, June 2021, just last month it's released. And according to this, if you see to that, there are about, we have lost on an average 88 instruction days. We have lost in this 15 months of time, 15 plus. And 115 days in the low-income countries and 53 days in the high-income countries, because in high-income countries, at times they do reopen and then closure, reopen were going on. But on an average, we have lost 88 instruction days. And think about how much children would have lost in those instruction days, what we need to deliver, right? So this is very, very important. Now, how are we going to respond to the learning losses? Now, some of the countries have even suspended the final exams or the year-end exams or even extended, right? They're coming up with various measures to overcome this challenge. However, the learning loss is still there, right? How are we going to address this? So what are the mitigating and recovery mechanisms that we are going to adopt to overcome the learning losses? Is something very important. And now when students return back to school, are we still going to come up with the old set of teaching and pedagogical practices that are mainly for face-to-face learning, right? So therefore, a revolutionary pedagogical approaches is also important to meet these challenges. That's the important concern here. Now, the driving forces for online classes. So now we have come up with all the government have come up with the initiatives in facilitating online learning in various ways. They have taken immense effort in doing that. So like in Digital India initiatives, there are various that really very impressive to go through all the websites and see what's happening. Really, I'm telling it's very, very detailed and very impressive to know that India is taking such immense measures to bridge this gap. And even anyone in the remote village can get access to this. Very, very impressive to go through each website and get to know what's really happening in India. And the distance learning tools and the MOOC courses, TV and radio programs, of course, right? And so many virtual online classes and programs are going on to bridge this gap. And EduTech has also come up with a wide range of teaching and learning sources that you get fascinated by every single application you open and see, want to explore. There are so much out there to explore and learn, right? Whether it is effective and how long it is going to be active is still no, but there are a lot more to explore in educational technology and instructional technology, right? So these are the driving force that's keeping this remote learning alive, right? So we have to encourage that. Okay, keeping that aside, now these are the challenges that we have in the COVID-19 situation. But let's look back to pre-COVID situation, before that. Now, WHO, the report from WHO in 2016 has already given that, due to the education IR 4.0 and subsequently education 4.0 and its effects in the education and overall the workforce, work nature, everything, right? Looking at that, WHO's 2016, the report says that 65% of the children who are in the primary school now, they are going to end up with a job that is completely alien to them. We don't know what is going to exist in 2030 for them when they join the workforce. So this is the scenario with the pre-COVID situation. Now, with this during this COVID situation, now this skill gap has widened very far and wide and deepened, right? So already we have been coming up with policies and measures to bridge that gap that is going on with the IR 4.0 and Education 4.0 revolution. And now the COVID-19 has intensified. Therefore, accessibility, affordability, flexibility, pedagogy, lifelong learning policy, all these are emerging. And we are in an urge to look for evidence-based policies, right? We need some evidence data to support the policy implementation and to monitor its outcome. So these are the pressing concerns now currently we are going through, and we need to address this. So coming to this, I'm just trying to narrow down to SEL. I do not want to jump directly to the topic, but just want to give the background. Why SEL is so important, and now international organizations are looking into this and promoting this learning methodology, right? Okay, so coming to Education 4.0, at one side, we are looking at artificial intelligence, right? And those robotics and coding curriculum and those which are related to IR 4.0. And at the other side, now the learners, they also need to cope with the fast pacing of revolution going on with the industrial revolution. Now, we need to have this balance. Artificial intelligence and emotional intelligence need to be balanced, right? And of course, machines can never take up, machines can take up the basic work, but we don't know yet to come, yet to explore. But how about the emotional intelligence of our children, or we say the resilience, the mental makeup of our children, how well they can cope with the changes, uncertainties is something very important to discuss, right? So we are surrounded now with very smart technology. Now, if I just ask you this question, how do you define the smartness of a learner, right? We are surrounded with smart technology, like self-monitoring, analysis, and reporting technology. We just abbreviated as SMART, right? So smart watches, phones, now wearables, and we think about sustainable environment, home, so many smart technology and its applications. Now, what are the smart attributes that we define for 21st century learners? Now, most of the jobs are taken up by the artificial intelligence, which is mainly of working on the cognitive skills, problem solving, coding, analysis, big data, and all those related to the cognitive skills, right? The affective and the behavior skills, mostly the affective skills, is still within us. We are the master, right? We are the master for now. And therefore, we need to empower our students with these effective skills to cope with the technological development of AI in the, coming up and in the future. So how do we measure the effectiveness of learner, or we say the attributes of smartness? So IQ, I think it's getting outdated, and we are more moving towards the affective domain like emotional quotient, social intelligence quotient, and now coming up with adversity quotient. How well we can tackle the uncertainties and face, take up the problems and face the situation, adversity quotient, and curiosity quotient, right? So these are some of the qualities that we want from our 21st century learners, more of effective nature, which can balance or overcome even the difficulties of what they have with the cognitive skills. Okay, so let's move on to the World Economic Forum Award 2015. It has given a list of 16 attributes or the skills for the 21st century learners. Very comprehensive, right? Foundational literacies, there are 6 foundational literacies, and there are 4 competencies, and you see like the 6 character qualities, a balance of all these 3 domains of development. So here in foundational literacy, the literacy, numeracy, scientific, ICT, financial, culture, and civic. And coming to competencies or the skills for complex challenges, we have creativity, collaboration, communication. See, these are something related more of social nature, social and emotional, like team and qualities that we want to work with the team, right? And then curiosity, initiative, persistence or grit, adaptability, leadership. So you see that broad range of skills we really need to develop with our 21st century learners for their lifelong learning skills. And not only that, OECD Learning Compass, like 2030, like what the children need to possess, the attributes that they need to develop so that they can be successful in 2030, right? So OECD Learning Compass 2030 has given these 4 core foundations: knowledge, values, and attributes and skills. So what is, according to OECD Learning Compass, is like a compass can help us to navigate. A learner should be able to navigate by themselves more independently, okay? However, getting the support from parents, community, teachers, school, and everything, policy and everything. However, the child or the learner should be independent of making decisions of what to do and how to do, and more resilient to just go beyond the comfort zone, okay? So the OECD Learning Compass 2030 just focus on how to prepare our children to deal with uncertainties, okay? And to be coming up with more, they can be more independent and autonomy in taking decisions rather than, dependent individuals. So this is how we want our learners in 2030, okay? And we are thinking about transformative pedagogies, that because what the skill we are teaching for children now is not going to exist exactly to fit in their future workforce. Now, what they acquire now, they need to transfer that to a new setting, or we call the transformative competencies or the core competencies that they need, right? So now we need to prepare our children to work in uncertainties, to work in situations where there will be a lot of changes, right? So this is how we are looking at this situation for 2030, right? So having discussed this situation, what are the challenges we have? And we should never forget that, we should focus Maslow before Bloom. So Maslow is a basic hierarchy of needs that we know that it is a psychology of needs. Then go safety, love and belonging, self-esteem, self-actualization. We go from lower to higher, right? And now with the COVID situation, we are here down there with the physiological needs and safety needs. When we think about our marginalized communities, we are yet to cater to their needs. We are not able to reach out and fulfill their needs. Now, down there, we are now concerned about our life, safety, and security. Now, the learning comes somewhere on top, right? How do we make our children, our community, to be comfortable to reach the higher level? So before we plan our lesson based on Bloom's taxonomy, and when we say Bloom's taxonomy, we immediately go to the the cognitive level of Bloom's taxonomy: knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, and XYZ, right? The 6 levels of Bloom's taxonomy. And the highest one, now we have come up with the synthesis and creation. So we immediately jump into, if we encourage our teacher trainees or our teachers to just write lesson plan based on their learning objective for cognitive domains, when so much of lower areas, which is safety and physiological needs, are yet to be met, how are we going to support such learning, right? So we need to take care that we have to focus now. For now, it is the situation is such that we need to focus mostly on the affective domain of learning. So we need to focus on receiving, responding, valuing, organizing, and characterizing by value. Value is very important, especially now. Value is very important. AI can't do anything. Only EI with people can make difference in the world with values, right? So ethics, morality, values are something that we need to develop with the current generation of learners, right? So we need to plan our lesson not to so much into cognitive, but need to blend the cognitive domain and predominantly give importance to the affective area of learning. And that will motivate the children to come back to school or to get involved in their education, and we can safely close the learning gaps, or we say the learning losses. Okay, so therefore, that's the main idea of social emotional learning. It's a humanistic approach. We are all interconnected with the emotions, and feelings are very important. We are not going, it's impossible to live without all this. These are fundamentals. And therefore, it should be brought into the classroom. We are now focused more, our textbooks are all focused on the cognitive domain, and we are more of bringing, pre-COVID situation, I'm telling before that. Right now, we are trying to bring in to this affective domain of learning into the picture, and that gives the holistic or the humanistic approach to learning, okay? So now, what I would like to just go with the basic, with the history. So it started with the SEL, and it started with the international organization somewhere in 2015 to 2017 with UNESCO, OECD, World Bank, and World Economic Forum and Brookings Institution, and they came up with this framework or the attributes that composite the social and emotional dimensions of learning. And now there are strong promotion for this social emotional learning. You can go to any websites and take more courses on this. Even if you are interested, you can go to NGEIP UNESCO, okay, where I do learn about this a lot, or even Coursera or any courses. So now you see the international organizations are now focusing on how to build the soft skills, the non-cognitive skills, okay? And that will lay foundation, a strong foundation for the other skills. So this lays a strong foundation that mediates the foundation for acquiring the higher knowledge or the foundation knowledge as well. Okay, so what is SEL now? So you can see the dimensions here. That is, SEL is just the social emotional competencies that one need to have. So recognize or identify the emotion. First of all, a child should know I am happy, I am a bit tired, or I am moody today, right? Identifying emotions, recognize and manage emotions. And handle oneself. How to handle my emotion is very important so that we don't downpour on someone else. Develop caring and concern for others. Recognize and identify others and build this kind of empathy with others, and establish a very good positive relationship and build, nurture and maintain. That's very important. Maintain, develop and maintain positive relationship, and make responsible decision. Right. So these are the basic constructs in SEL, and the SDG 4, directly promotes SEL. Okay, so the 4.7, if you take and read to 4.7 on further on this, it is more towards preparing our children for soft skills and social emotional learning. Okay, so these are the 5 core competencies that we have in social emotional learning. So if you see to this self, okay, awareness of oneself and management, other social awareness and relationship skills, and decision making is, so I hope like you could make is very relatable to emotional intelligence dimensions. It is very much relatable. So I would say that how you practice EI in the classroom is what SEL, okay, and also bringing the context of community and parents. So therefore, how to create social emotional learning is create an environment that appreciates the social and emotional nature of child and the children in the classroom, and also the skills that we practice, the pedagogy. Okay. And that should also bring in the social emotional skills tied up to it. Okay. And therefore, we can expect this positive outcome. So a child now in the COVID situation, they have faced numerous problems, right? And when they come to school, they just first look for someone to listen to their pain or listen to what they need, right? So we need to first address those. Keeping aside the social emotional needs and we focus on cognitive needs, it's not going to bring in positive outcomes. Now we need kind of more counseling and support if it is required to address these needs to counselors, or it can be done by the teachers in the classroom. We have to create that empathy and sharing the emotions in the classrooms. So what are the benefits? Yes, it is better academic performance, attitudes and behaviors are improved. We can reduce negative behaviors, and this has been very well researched, and findings are very, very well grounded to show that it has very positive outcomes. Okay, and also reduce emotional stress. So when we nurture this emotion, then students will help themselves and also help others. So we have to teach students to self-care of themselves. So first of all, teachers need to model good self-care, and caring oneself in terms of emotions is when someone is upset, you just need to go and ask why, how can I help you, right? And we cannot put the child to say like, stop now, I want to teach, go with the lesson. Okay, maybe the teacher is running out of time, but later the teacher need to come to the child and address for what the child has been like a mood off for a few days, right? So first of all, we need to make children aware that we are caring about how they feel coming to the school. That's very important, and talk to them and create a self-care time. It's not just homework time. We need to come up with a self-care time or the rapport that you can build up and share the feelings, right? So a teacher should allocate time for just to establish this relationship with the child, and make them realize that asking help is something very normal one. It is not something, because at times parents or anyone will say like, don't ask help to anyone, it shows that you are incapable. No, asking for help, asking for support, can someone help me, is something quite normal. And we can just reach out to anyone who is supportive at that time, provided they are safe to us, right? So recognizing their emotions, and something goes wrong, we accept the mistakes. These are something important for self-care. So we need to have some time, the teacher need to spend some time for self-care in the classroom. Now I'm going to go through the social emotional framework that has been given. One is the framework that's given by UNESCO MGIEP, which is Mahatma Gandhi Institute of Education for Peace and Sustainable Development, which is at New Delhi. You can go to the website and there are many activities related to it going on. It's quite interesting to go and see those MOOC courses and other blogs and read there. So they have come up with this EMC squared framework, very interesting, like Einstein's one. So the framework emphasis on empathy, mindfulness, compassion, and critical inquiry. Okay, so we have to focus on these 4 areas when we are delivering our lessons, okay? So how this can be done in math classroom, how this can be done in science classroom, yes, it can be done, and now curriculum is being rewritten, embedding the SEL requirements or the principles, okay? And this is from the Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning, which is abbreviated as CASEL. Okay, it is based on in the US. And this has come up with, is going on so many activities and webinars. You please take time to explore this website as well. I have just given the link down there. Okay, so the broad 5 categories promoted by CASEL to bring in the social emotional learning context in the classroom are the self-awareness, management, self-management, decision-making, relationship, social awareness. So with the classroom, schools, homes, and communities, okay, with the support of all this. And also with our education, the system support like curriculum and instruction, school-wide practices, family and community partnership. So as a whole, we need to promote this. So we need to bring in awareness to the families to know that the importance of social and emotional skills that lays foundation for cognitive, to acquire higher levels of skills. See, we cannot learn anything when we have a severe headache or when we are sick. So basically we need a rest. And when we are angry, sure, we cannot read, or any other negative emotions, we really cannot read. Then we need to first address those before we move into learning higher, something related to cognitive. So coming to self-awareness, let me just check, okay. These are other domains, the other areas that are given for each of this self-management, awareness, self-awareness, social awareness, and relationship skills promoted by CASEL. Okay, so identifying emotions is important. We need to teach children what are the different types of emotions. No, you can go to the feel wheel or the emotion wheel and see there are numerous emotions, the names and the meaning. So identify, recognize the strengths and weaknesses of emotion, because we say positive and negative, and the sense of self-confidence, self-efficacy, all this comes in self-awareness. Now, management, how do we manage? We need to teach children how to manage their emotions. This is very important. And before we teach, we need to acquire that skill, right? It's very important for teachers, parents, and anyone to manage themselves first before we even teach or prepare curriculum. And responsible decision making is because we are focusing on future learners who can take decisions, make independent decisions and responsible decisions. And coming to relationship skills, and then social awareness. Perspective taking is very important. We should appreciate the difference of opinion and views. We should encourage children that people may have different views, but still we need to accept. So diversity, there is diversity in the community, and how well do we accept it and move on and support each other, creating a very empathetic situation. So these are some of the major domains and the subsets of each of this. Now coming to the strategy, then we have 14 strategies recommended by World Economic Forum that will provide a SEL-rich environment. Okay, so take time to focus on this, on social emotional development in each classroom. Break down the learning into small pieces, create a safe environment, create a growth mindset, Intelligence is something that can be developed with effort and put in more time for, practice. So the developing a growth mindset is very, very important, and fixed mindset is the opposite of it, right? Where intelligence is fixed trend, but growth mindset consider that I can become more intelligent with practice. Now, play-based learning, now even like adults, or like us, educators, now gamification has become a norm. So even the HR training is coming out like in the form of gamification of learning, right, for adults. So learning is the best way to play is the best way to learn, irrespective of age. So we need to focus on this. Foster learning, nurturing relationship, and reflection is very important as well, right? Reasoning and reflection, writing journal. Other than that, guide the child for discovery, provide challenge and personality strength, okay, and caregiving. So these are the challenges. Now, there are also specific skills focused on each of for promoting SEL, okay. So building confidence, ability to process emotion, encourage questioning and guessing. Okay, so this is very important. Creating cultural awareness, respect of tolerance, ability to negotiate. So how well do we encourage children to negotiate in the classroom, right? We at times, we just tell them, keep quiet and just take what I say, but that's not the way to build this SEL classroom environment. Constructive feedback, encourage empathy, language-rich environment, First of all, we need to be familiar with the different emotions and practices and able to communicate clearly and precisely. And grit means persistence, ability to survive, thrive through the difficult situations. So these are the skills that we are focusing. Other than this, it has given 30 strategies, 30 strategies. More on it, please go to World Economic Forum. This new vision for education. So adaptability, collaboration, creativity, curiosity, initiative, okay, and critical thinking. So there are broad range of teaching strategies that are supported by international organizations, and even the one that is placed in India, the UNESCO ENG IEP. Okay, so we are they are coming up with a new set of pedagogical approaches to be just blended with the current curriculum. Okay, and now for the remote learning, we need to create room, first of all, to share, prioritize communication. First, prioritize communication, then let's move on to the topic. Practice self-care and provide a consistent routine. So this is the time for lesson, this is the time for sharing, this is the time to care about each other and to let out or vent out their feelings in the classroom. So let us have some time for children to just vent out what if they have any concerns. And other than that, we need to be listening, good listening skills, especially to their feelings, good observant for teachers especially, and building social emotional skills into learning, building into curriculum, and support students for the maintaining a community responsibility, responsibility to the community, and reflection and make adjustment. So these are very important. Now coming to the teachers, I'm just left with few more seconds. Coming to the teachers. So there are so many data that has given that teacher burnout has become a very normal during this COVID situation. No, because the teacher burnout is mostly happening because how to deliver it in the online classroom. So we see students drop out and teachers burn out. Now these are the challenges that we are facing it. So if teacher is placing social emotional environment in a classroom where it is a very fun and interactive way of learning, there is no room that the teacher need to just quit the job. So we need to create that. It also improves the mental health of the teachers. Okay, so we need to build capacity or this upskilling teachers to develop social and emotional skills. So a teacher should have some handy emotional kit for teachers. So teach your children on emotional literacy. So the first question is, what is the benefit of acquiring foundational literacy without emotional literacy? Right? It's very important. There is no, it is not going to bring any big changes in our community or in the environment if we do not make our children emotionally literate. That's very important for the community building. Okay, and this is a field wheel. So when teachers can every day come in, just spend few minutes in asking each student to record how they feel on each day. And teacher can also take account of it and to see how the child is feeling. Should I need to intervene and support the child? So the teacher can ask the child to come up with a record of feelings, and then teacher can intervene. So broadly, if there is an app, this app particularly very interesting, Mood Meter. Okay, so this app supports how to manage emotions. So if it is not available to use the app, we can create there are many resources on this on tracking emotions. Please find out and create a template that goes handy with the children to record their emotions on a daily basis, and so that teacher can even have a look and see what can be done. Okay, and that can be done. And therefore, amidst of all this chaotic happenings that's going on with COVID-19, what is important in the school and with the children, with the teachers, the whole of education community is we need to prepare them with the awareness, regulation, and body relaxation techniques, So these should be there as an emotional toolkit for the teachers so that they can easily practice that with the children when they come to class. We need to have a list of indoor activities and some relationship building games. So all this sort of games, teachers should prepare and keep it handy so that it helps the child, when the teacher goes to the classroom, immediately can be implemented. Okay. So now coming to the end of it, so recovering the education in 2021, how are we going to reopen the schools? So having said the challenges, having said what could be the effective way of fixing this learning losses, right? So now we are looking into recovery in 2021. So there are many international organizations that have come up with we should not continue with the closure of schools, that the government should take some measures to reopen the schools in a safer way, and the children should be returned back to the school, and we support their overall well-being. So in the reopening the schools, we have to focus on their psychosocial well-being. That should be prioritized, okay? And all children should receive support to catch up with the lost learning, what they haven't done, And now they are moving to the next academic year. What happened to the last? Now that it's very challenging. We just push the child to the next class, and it is going to be very demanding for the child, and that's going to build up a stress for them. So we need to come up with some support for this, right? And incorporate digital technologies in a fun and interactive way, to overcome these difficulties. And also keeping in view the safety and other measures, to prevent the spread of COVID. So what's the mantra is like, we have heard about it, learn and relearn. I would like to also emphasize that continue learning to learn at all times, because what has been learning at one time, it's no more at the other time. And we need to build this mindset with the children that learning is a never-ending process. It's an ongoing process, and there is no limit. And learning to learn is also evolving, because only then we can meet the uncertain situations. Okay, and I would like to end my just discussion with this very powerful quote from our Dr. Radhakrishnan. Yeah, so the end product of education should be a free, creative man who can battle against historical circumstances and adversities of nature. So long time ago, right? So it is well written and well stated. That is very aptly suit for this particular situation from Dr. Radhakrishnan. So what we need to prepare is to prepare a creative man is just we need to prepare for the adversities of, during even such hard times. We should not stop preparing or looking into how we can manage the whole of education process. Yeah, these are my references. Sorry, the first one I didn't put it in the format. These are my references. And yeah, that's all from me for today. Thank you very much for your patient listening.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your wonderful presentation. Dear participants, if you have any queries, please put it in the chat box.
Thank you so much, Priyadarshini madam. It was a wonderful presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much for that.
Session. And we have also received a question from the participant. I have posted it in the chat box. In current pandemic situation, group dynamism of children is not at all possible, as most of the students remain at home since last 1.5 year. How can we expect social and emotional learning?
Okay, that's a very good, relevant question. I appreciate the participant for throwing this question here. Yes, so we consider that social and emotional means coming together and bringing children together in a physical form, like face-to-face classes. How we get. Now we have groups, we can have online platforms where we can also create exercise. Say, for example, you just ask them, okay, you can break out, because I think in most of, I'm not familiar with using the Google Classroom, but I see in most of the online platform, we have breakout rooms, and where we can make grouping into them and ask them to conduct activities. And that's how we conduct activities. And it is not physically like coming together, but the sharing, the communication, the team spirit, the cooperation, and listening to each other, appreciating one for each other, learning from one another is possible in an online environment. Only thing is they are not together, being together and able to, have that friendly environment in a physical space. But most of the online classes are now coming up with attractive features that would facilitate this group work and other things. And also, teacher have to take very intensive, have to equip herself or himself to see that what are the features that will facilitate group and creating group activities in online platform. So I hope if that is difficult for now, I hope like we will eventually will need to upskill ourselves in that area and need to address it for sure. I hope I have addressed the question.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
okay, thank you.
So many positive feedbacks we have received from the participants. It was so excellent, informative session.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you so much for joining us and sparing your wonderful time with us. And
my pleasure.
Shall we proceed? Nandini, you can proceed, Rama.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Now I invite Dr. F. Vincent Rajasegar, Assistant Professor, Lakshmi College of Education, Gandhigram, to deliver the token of gratitude. Welcome, sir.
Vincent, sir. Madam, we have got one more question. What is meant by social and emotional learning?
Social and emotional learning. What is meant by social and emotional learning, right, Miss Professor Kalevani?
Ma'am?
What is meant by social and emotional
Social and
learning?
emotional learning.
Okay. Thank you for that. Yes, social and emotional learning is any learning context you consider. We have to bring in the idea of appreciating the social context, first of all, make it like a group activity, right? It's a social context. And also appreciating or recognizing, identifying, and supporting the emotional needs of a child. So if a child is disturbed for that day, okay, or you have seen that the child for a few days, then we need to stop and first of all take care of why. So in a social and emotional learning context, the learner, the teacher, enjoys learning, appreciating the differences, listening to one another, and addressing to the immediate needs that build the social emotional skills of each other. Okay, so I'm quite explanatory. I'm quite surprised to hear that question after discussing. So I've been discussing that for so long.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am, for answering our question. Thank you, ma'am. Nandini, you can continue.
Now I invite Dr. F. Vincent Rajasegar, Assistant Professor, Lakshmi College of Education, Gandhigram, to deliver the token of gratitude. Welcome, sir. Sir?
Vincent, sir? You can proceed, Nandini.
Okay, ma'am. I invite Ms. N. Keertana, student teacher, Lakshmi College of... Ma'am, is I audible, ma'am? Ma'am?
Yes, you are audible, Nandini.
I invite Ms. N. Keertana, student teacher, Lakshmi College of Education, Gandhigram, to deliver the token of gratitude. Welcome, Keertana.
Thank you, Nandini. Good morning to everyone. It's my privilege to propose a vote of thanks. On behalf of Lakshmi College of Education and Tamil Nadu Teacher Education University, I extend my gratitude to our resource person, Dr. Priyadasni Muthukrishnan, Senior Lecturer, Department of Education Health University, Malaysia, who handled the session on a focus on social emotional learning during the COVID-19 pandemic. Through her speech, she insisted that COVID-19 school closure and learning losses. The COVID-19 situation has widened and intensified the skill gap further. Also, she explained the smart technology and measures of 21st century learners attribute for success, and so on. She spent her busiest time on gracing this occasion. Today, we had an opportunity to hear her thoughts, and this will be definitely encouraging us in our future events. Your thoughts have enlightened our minds and shown us a new path. We wish to have many more role models and inspiring personalities like you in our homeland. Thank you, ma'am. A special thanks to Ms. M. Uma Maheshwari, Assistant Professor, Lakshmi College of Education, for introducing the resource person. Further, hearty thanks to everyone who made this meeting possible. We thank you all for being with us. Have a great day ahead. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, Keertana, and thank you, ma'am. Now it's time for the second session. I cordially invite Ms. M. Kalaivani, Assistant Professor, Lakshmi College of Education, Gandhigram, to introduce the resource person. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you, Nandini. It's a great privilege and honor for me to introduce our resource persons of the session 2 of this Day 6 program. First of all, I would like to introduce our Professor Kinga Anna Gajada, Associate Professor of Political Science. She has completed her PhD in Humanities. Her research interests related to research areas are intercultural competence, European cultural heritage and memory, intercultural education. She has been also served as visiting professors to various universities such as Pex, Stockholm, Bratislava, Vienna, and so on. And she has been the author of scientific monographs, articles, and European expertise. The coordinator of the Jagiellonian Service of Intercultural Competence and the University Class of Intercultural Competence. She has also won the award of the Rector of the Jagiellonian University and the Dean of Faculty of International and Political Science. On behalf of Tamil Nadu Teacher Education University and Lakshmi College of Education, on my own behalf, I welcome you, ma'am. Next, I would like to introduce our resource person, Bozina Gerard Biaran, Associate Professor of Political Science. She has also completed her PhD in Humanities. Her research areas are related to cultural policies, European Union cultural policy, European cultural heritage and memory, European cultural extension relations, cultural diplomacy. And she also served as visiting professors to various universities such as Leuven, Glasgow, and so on. And she has been received a scholarship of Tempest Fund, and she has been authored and for scientific monographs, articles, and European expertises. She is also the member of European Association of Cultural Researchers, and during the period of 2002 to 2009, she was the main coordinator of MA Eurocultural program. And from 2012 to 2013, she held the position of proxy of director of National Cultural Center, Warsaw of Wroclaw, ECOC 2016. She has been the winner of the award of the Rector of the Jagiellonian University and the Dean of Faculty of International and Political Science. On behalf of Tamil Nadu Teacher Education University and Lakshmi College of Education and my own behalf, I welcome you, ma'am. We are so blessed to have you on this platform. Please, it is your time to proceed. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Now I humbly invite King Anna Gazada and Bozina Gerard Biaron, Faculty of International and Political Studies, Institute of European University, European Studies, Jagiellonian University, Poland, to start the session on Crises and Challenges of COVID-19 on Cultural and Social Well-being. Welcome, ma'am. Now the time is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much for your introduction. First of all, we would like to thank you for inviting us for your program, and it is a great opportunity for us to be with you. We would like to deliver a speech presenting the result of our research in the sector of culture in Poland. So let me share my screen with you. I hope that you are able to see our presentation. So, Bożena, may I ask you about the introduction?
Okay, thank you very much. I hope that you can hear me. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I hear you, so I hope that the other participants are as well.
Okay, I had some problems with communication, so I hope that everything is okay now. Okay, so first of all, I would make a short introduction related to the pilot research project which we conducted in last year, 2020. As you could see on this slide, there was a timeline, 1st of May 2020 to 31 November 2020. So it was quite a pilot short project, which we had a grant for it. And we tried to find out the reaction of cultural operators in Poland for the aid which was introduced to them by the local government. If you see at the map of Poland, there is 6 cities. Maybe Kinga, you can point it out. There is Gdańsk city, there is Poznań city, Łódź city, Warsaw, which is a capital, and Wrocław and Krakow. These cities in Poland, these are the most important cities concerning culture potential. It is really powerful cities in terms of a number of culture operators, numbers of culture institutions. These cities, this local government used to give large, fund for culture. These cities consist of many cultural institutions such as concert halls, national museums, national galleries, national theaters, some of them. So we decided to check how these cities, these powerful six Polish cities, how these cities helped culture operators during pandemia in the most critical time between May and November 2020. So we conducted a survey which was consist of questionnaires. The questionnaires consist of 11 questions, and we sent them to the 3 categories of responders. One category was the representatives of city culture institutions in each of the cities. Then the second responders, there was representative of NGOs in the city, and third responders, that was individual artists. So we would like to diverse, the culture operators for these 3 categories, that we have a completely different representative, and we can check how their reaction to the local governmental aid, which helped them in crisis, in a pandemic crisis. So again, so it was a questionnaire which we sent to about 101 responders in these 3 cities. They sent us back the questionnaires. Additionally, we made some phone calls to some of them because just to ask for more details if we were not really satisfied of their response. So because we couldn't get a direct contact with them because of the pandemic time, so we can't, as everyone, we can't move from Krakow. So the phone calls, that was the additional instrument which we use in the survey, just to ask for details. So it was a short research directed to 6 local government of the most powerful Polish cities, and we would like to check and find out the kind of aid against crisis, the aid which was offered by the local government to the culture operators in each of the cities, and on the other side, we wanted to check the reaction for that culture operators for that aid. Next slide. There was a main, but we listed here main aims of the research project. One of them was to analyze, based on qualitative research, local government response from 6 cities, as I said, to the culture sector affected by the coronavirus pandemic. Then, second aim was taking into account the crisis response model proposed in crisis emergency risk communication, which was offered by the Center for Disease Control and Prevention from the USA. We would like to the research analyze the quality of local government assistance in terms of the speed of government response, the appropriateness of assistance, respect and empathy for those affected, and the transparency of the form of assistance. I will develop this the issue later on. Then, as I said, the research analyzes opinions of representative of cultural sector to the local government's aid. Responders were come from cultural municipal institutions such as galleries, theaters, national or local regional concert halls, non-governmental organizations in that cities, and selected and also artists which were selected from the local groups. So that was the main research aims. And next slide. And next slide.
You don't
okay.
see it? I've got
yes. Okay.
Yeah.
based on the procedures and rules, which was written in crisis emergency risk communication, which is one of the most important document and report published published by the Center for Disease Control and Prevention from the USA. Why we use this? We use this because in Polish literature there is not a lot of these kind of reports. Poland was not, generally speaking, was not really prepared for pandemic. Maybe like many other countries. So people did not receive the instruction how to behave, which was introduced to people advanced. Few months advanced the March, which really pandemic burst in 2020. So there's not a special instruction which was introduced to people during pandemic. So in fact, we still don't know how the local government behave on which procedures, formal procedures, or formal procedures which they had set before the pandemic. So because we don't have that really obligatory documents for that, so we decided to look at the more universal report, which was introduced by Center for Disease Control and Prevention from the USA. Because they collected a lot of reports referred to the pandemic time or crisis. First of them was just set and published after September 11 attack in New York, and this center is famous for collecting more and more this kind of reports, which preventing people from crisis. So because it's so universal, I had 6 steps. Quite clear. So we decided to implement this kind of 6 rules of conducting during a pandemic crisis into our research. So first step is be first, second, be right, third, express empathy, 4, promote action, 5, show respect, and 6, demonstrate transparency. These kind of 6 steps or 6 rules, they repeated them in some others report. Let me just draw your attention for the report written by Reynolds and Seegers, Crisis and Emergency Risk Communication as the Integrated Model from 2005, and also Reynolds and Queen, Effective Communication during an influenza pandemic 2008. So and many others. So as I said, because it's quite universal rules and procedures and quite clear and easy, so it was for us a kind of direction which we went through during our research. And next, there is 3 key questions of the research project. These 3 key questions, as I said, and I would like to underline again, it was addressed to culture operators. We did not ask local government. We just found out some materials, some assistance which they offered to the culture operators, and there is a written. This is a written materials. This is a written document. So we went through these documents, which was offered by the local government, and then. And this document, presenting the type of instruments of the assistance of the local government to the culture operators, and then we asked the culture operators how they appreciate it, and how these documents and how these instruments which was introduced to them during pandemic, instruments such as some additional fund, some additional grants, some additional competition, that they can get some fund to, which rescue them in the critical situation. So they participated in this assistance, and then we asked them whether this aids was enough for them or satisfactory for them. So our respondents were culture operators, and their reaction to the local governmental aid, which helped them in a critical situation, in a crisis. So 3 questions of the research project. First of them, is to what extent did the municipal government, with its financial resources and reliance on crisis management structures, adequately respond to the needs of the cultural sector during the pandemic, monitored the sector's problems, and was just close to people. So to what extent the municipal government, that was important, adequately respond to the needs of cultural sector during pandemic. So that was a first quick question. Second quick questions stands as, did the cultural artistic circle feel supported by the local government in a situation of total paralysis of creative activity? Because I didn't say that the cultural institutions were totally closed. It was a total lockdown since March until, in fact, the spring of this year. So there was some cultural operators, frequently opened and closed during last year. So that was like a sinusoid of their activities. So and meanwhile, when they were closed, they used this, the aid from local government. So they apply for additional fund just to rescue themselves. So did the cultural and artistic circles feel supported by the local government in a situation of total paralysis of creative activity? Because they could get support. The question was whether they use it, or how this support really fulfilled their requirements. And the third question is, how did both sides, local government and artists, survive the extreme situation? Just would like also to appreciate the local government assistance that they really wanted to help cultural operators, and which especially that cultural operators were in a critical situation. Okay, and next slide. Okay, definition of crisis. I think that was a key element of our research, because you cannot make some research on crisis if you don't define this phenomenon. So because we are coming from human sciences and from political sciences, so we decided to base the definition of crisis on the Habermas writing, Fukuyama writings, Gilland writings, James and Carl Jaspers, just to have a broadened approach to crisis. Of course, crisis generally is a turning point for change. So first of all, it's a turning point, but also we, taking into consideration that this is a point which could evoke, changes, future changes, or the moment changes. So it has, I think, two elements. A state of suffering accompanied by feeling of threat and fears. Of course, people used to feel, threat and fears since March 2020. So it's a kind of state of suffering. Then a situation or situational threat to the core values, interests, and goals of institutions or social groups. The crisis is also a sudden or escalating event, opposition to which requires the involvement of forces and resources that sometimes exceed local and community capabilities. I don't know what it sounds.
Sorry, it's my clock. It's okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
A situation that is the crisis, a situation that is a consequence of a threat. It leads to the breakdown or significant disruption of social ties with a concomitant serious disruption in the functioning of public institutions. A challenge. So the crisis could be a challenge to society's sense of normality, traditions, values, and security. All of these aspects of crisis we took into consideration during our research. We also asked respondents about their interpretation of crisis, their feeling, their point, their situation during a crisis time. Okay, and next slide, which will be last on my side. How the artists and cultural operators react to crisis. As I said, we asked them what was their response. Critical reaction of representative of artistic and cultural circles to the proposed solutions. Usually, a majority of responders demonstrated critical reaction to the local government aid to crisis and local government aid to their situation in the crisis. they are also telling about the definition of existing principles, assumptions, methods of working. Redefinition was one of the also keywords they used in their survey. Redefinition of everything, in fact, their way of working, their way of behavior, their attitude, to their institution, their attitude to work generally. It reveals the past in many years of neglect in the cultural sector and disappoints with the methods of management. That was very, very crucial point. The responders, demonstrate this attitude that they were always neglected, and culture was neglected in Poland for many years. So that is why here during the pandemic time, this support is not so strong, because the sector was not so strong as the next answer. Artists have never been appreciated, and the field they represent is regarded in Poland as weak. So they also regarded themselves as weak. I mean, as people coming from a weak sector, from neglected sector, for a sector which was not treated, seriously during previous years. So the method of support, they are not also really serious. And crisis, as I said, them turning point, crossover in thinking, decisive moment, qualitative change, and reflexivity, and process of organizational transformation of the cultural sector. They prognosed that it should change sector in terms of attitude of artists to their work and to their work, but also in terms of organizational transformation and transformation of culture policy for the city, city cultural policy. So that was quite important. Okay, and now Kiga, the floor is yours.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So we decided to focus on three main variables. Here we've got it. It's appropriate, adequate local government supportive response to the needs of the arts in crisis, innovation of methods and supportive instruments which can protect culture in crisis, especially online, and implementation of the idea of solidarity with artists and cultural operators in a pandemic situation, empathy. And I will analyze two of them later on. So the main variables of the research are linked with resilience on the one hand and well-being on the other. Resilience is described by researchers as the ability to deal with challenges and flexibly adapt to changing circumstances. It is understood as the dynamic process reflecting the adaptation of individual and or group despite the threats of traumatic experience they experienced. This process includes the interaction of the entire spectrum of risk factors, vulnerabilities, and protective factors. Focusing on resilience allows the identification of risk factors as well as protective and adaptive as well as repairing mechanism. All our variables are linked with as repairing as adaptive mechanism. According to Davis, well-being is defined as the experience of happiness and prosperity, which includes having great life satisfaction, understand life's meaning, and purpose, as well as high stress management competency. Well-being is in general a term used to describe a condition of an individual or a group with reference to the social, economic, psychological attention. The subjective perception on the well-being state differs depending on the specific circumstances present at some point, especially in the case of long-term evaluation. Therefore, it is necessary to approach this aspect from an objective point of view. There may be variations depending on cultural differences, differences between population groups depending on their social expectation. The three main variables selected by us were related to the subjective group perception of representatives of the cultural community about their life satisfaction, understand life's meaning and purpose, as well as high-stress management competency. Today, we would like to focus and discuss two of them in depth, solidarity and innovation. As part of our research, solidarity was understood as a practical attitude or social principle, which consists in perceiving the dependence of man on man. On the one hand, it was defined as a grassroots social attitude, and on the other, as a top-down practical dimension of cultural policy, the responsibility of the supreme institution for promoting, strengthening, and financially supporting a given sector. Solidarity is a material and symbolic help provided to a group and individuals from the cultural sector to defend against inadequacies and overcome a difficult situation. It is cooperation in one's own, as individual, as community, long-term interest based on a mutual faith in the group's possibilities, a sense of loyalty and dialogue. Sociologists and philosophers understood solidarity as a social cooperation, often combined with social changes on the way of revolution, evolution, or the resolution of a crisis. Richard Rorty points out that solidarity is about progress, and Tony Judd presents it as a necessary tool for organizing social life. Working together and helping each other is an instinctive way of coping with a difficult situation, an important part of the struggle for survival. Moreover, the attitude of solidarity is described as one of the methods of dealing with the crisis, political, economic, and cultural transformation, and supplementing the damaged potential. And it is even presented as the most effective method of community action and problem solving of the reparative nature. To what extent this method will be used and how effective it will be, it is a kind of test for a given group, its vitality and development. When analyzing the responses of respondents from the 6th city, which Bożena was mentioned, to the question with the 8 programs proposed by the local governments were proof of the solidarity of local authorities with cultural environments, it should be noted that the activities of Kraków and Poznań, 2 of cities, were assessed best due to transfer all activities to the internet and the debate with the community how aid for the cultural sector should look like. Respondents from other cities were very reserved about the aid method of their local governments. So there is the important question: what is solidarity with people of culture and art in times of crisis? What the solidarity means? Certainly, it does not rely on activities very simply interpreted by the respondents of our research as the PR of the local government or attempts to quickly reform the cultural sector under the guise of saving in times of the pandemic. According to the respondents, Solidarity is the authority's concern for culture, striving to consolidate the creative and artistic environment of crisis, integrating people of culture around a common problem and common participatory search for the best solution. It is an opportunity for a public debate on cultural issues. It is a hope that after years of underestimating culture has found its proper high place in the policy of local governments in thinking about local development and local integration. Solidarity is a duty of city authorities towards cultural environments, as our respondents said. But it is also activity aimed at intensifying contacts between institutions and individual artists, activities at the level of local government and cultural institutions. However, it must be said that the cities showed more solidarity with cultural institutions and non-governmental organizations than with individual creators or artists. Here, the solidarity within the group should be emphasized. Grassroots activities of institutions were created. The declared goal of which was to manifest solidarity with artists. For example, representatives of the Poznań, one of the city, culture community, supported each other financially and locally, advisory, technology, psychology, and helped each other in promoting all actions. Solidarity in the crisis could be observed between institutions, NGOs, and individual cultural workers. Such actions were caused by the conviction that only self-help can guarantee the survival of the cultural environment. Therefore, solidarity adopted not only a horizontal attitude in the relation between the institution and representatives of the sector. This was assessed much worse by the respondents, but also, and even more often, solidarity was adopted as vertical, a form of assistance provided by some members of the group to others in order to achieve common goals and overcome the situation of crisis at a time when you cannot count on the superior institution, state, local, government, etc. The respondents agreed that the actions of local governments fit much better than the state action in the context of the city solidarity with representatives of culture, although it is understandably because solidarity is a return to thinking about the city as a community based on empathy, trust, and attention devoted to other members of the community. It turns out that here, as a society, in a post-pandemic reality, we face new challenges. We need new interpersonal competences. We need solidarity and empathetic institutions. A new community requires a new culture. This is the culture of solidarity. And innovation. Innovation in culture is a condition for its development. It is closely related to the crisis. On the one hand, innovation is an essential crisis management tool. But on the other hand, the crisis itself is described as a stimulator of innovative solution. This is a good time to look for a new one, but also to modernize technological and organizational. Therefore, in a crisis such as a pandemic, it is impossible to investigate to what extent it stimulates innovative solution. And the most important stage of creativity in the social reception of innovative solution and checking to what extent they function properly in practice. New ideas must be recognized to be interpreted as creative. Hence, in order to be able to assess to what extent local government action in the social crisis were innovative and inspiring, representatives of the culture sector should be asked about it. And most of our respondents considered local government activities to be non-innovative. The highest rate of negative ratings were recorded in Gdańsk, Kraków, and Łódź. The innovative activities of local governments were most noticed and positively assessed by the respondents of Poznań and Warsaw. So we can see that there are two different answers. These two different, on average, opinions of the respondents are most likely related to the fact that innovation is understood by specialists in two ways: as stimulating technological development and promoting new ideas, supporting the dynamic of activities. Those who noticed innovative elements in local government, anti-crisis shield, aimed at the cultural sector focus mainly on transferring cultural activity to the internet, promoting online culture, stimulating the acquisition of new technological competences by representatives of the culture sector, and the possibility of remote work. And although archival recordings were initially made available on the web, or the existing method of operation were transferred to the internet, with time, new speech tools began to appear, such as webinars, moderated chat, virtual walks, or video interviews. Representatives of the culture sector pointed to the segmentation of culture and therefore its adaptation to the individual needs of recipients, soliciting them or innovating them to co-create culture. This changing the existing tradition, opening to new forms of contact with the viewers, in order to guarantee cultures survive. Therefore, meaning and disturb contacts with viewers and even acquiring new ones was assisted as innovative. Certainly, the pandemic has started a wave of cultural network. The network will no longer be perceived as a promotion tool or a secondary sphere of activity, but a primary place. Aware of this change, the creators talk about distorting the cultural and educational offer into a hybrid creation that will allow for combining traditional and modern forms. In addition, the distortion will have to be accompanied by legal and organizational changes regarding online copyrights, royalties, fees, subscriptions for access to online material, creating public platforms for broadcasting culture, etc. Of course, networking, although the most discussed, is not the only transformation in the cultural sector, although by far the most widely used. There have also been returns to previous form of activity, for example, outdoor, spontaneous, often voluntary, backyard activities, viewed from balconies or through the window, or the use of other communication tools such as telephone, radio, television, or traditional mail. For example, sending educational materials to school or homes. People who spoke negatively about innovation drew attention to the fact that local governments repeated the previous existing procedures, making them more flexible at best. And although they not perceive such changes as innovative, still, referring to the theory and statements of specialists, these activities should be considered innovative or at last quasi-innovative. Innovation is also described in the improvement or already existing working methods. Therefore, the introduction of non-competitive activities, modification of grant agreements and application procedures, or the initiation of a discussion about a different model of cultural management and financing are. In the light of this assumption, a manifestation of innovation tailored to the times and rules. Another important issue raised by the respondents was related to the fact that flexibility and autonomy are the condition of innovation. Many survey respondents indicated that it is difficult to access the action of local governments as innovative. Local governments acted, according to the respondents, within certain rules in the regime of regulations, plans, and reporting. The last element, inextricably linked to innovation, is the creative way to use the potential and knowledge of all cultural entities, managers, creators, and audiences. And just the creative way was the lowest noted by the respondents. It was pointed out that the city shields did not stimulate the development of creators and the environment. So just to conclude, because we've got only a few minutes, and I would like to give the possibility Bożena to conclude it as well. So here is how to build resilience and well-being in cultural sector in the cities after COVID-19. So there is the kind of summary of survey. Large cities, centers of arts and culture and tourism were particularly vulnerable to losses in the pandemic era and may suffer from the long-term negative effects of COVID-19. Large and important cultural centers can bounce back from the pandemic if they compensate for their losses with a rapid organizational and mental transformation, which can be helped by the adequacy of art offerings, innovation, and interpersonal solidarity. One of the most important problems in the urban cultural sector in Poland, which results directly from the presented research, will be the issue of rebuilding trust in decision-making, especially in the development of solutions for the future by local governments, which may prolong the time of the negative effects of the pandemic. The crisis was not only conducive to the shortening the distance between artists and politicians, but the sense of empathy demonstrated by the local government to the artists and within the sector itself may cause a faster regeneration of culture. The desire of artists to appear on the scene as soon as possible may accelerate the process of healing of artistic circles, which are likely to come out of the crisis strengthened by difficult and, in some cases, creative innovation. Culture, online webinars, online platforms, shows and debates, culture at home are the stable instruments of activities in future. The survey shows that artists, local managers, and decision makers had a lot of sympathy for their profession, for which they are willing to sacrifice a lot. Cities attract professional, talented artists and challenging creative environments, and they themselves have a remarkable capacity for resilience thanks to human energy and the genetic need for people to return to normalcy. Cultural operators will face the necessity of defining their role, expanding their target audience, and shaping a different creative image through virtual activities at different levels, which, as Hegud suggested, requires a new cultural governance. The interpersonal solidarity shows during the pandemic in Polish cities can evolve, as the European Union is already proposing, into a broader phenomenon of a culture of solidarity. So could you, Bożena, try to conclude it as well?
Thank you so much, ma'am, for presenting your research work in this platform.
Yeah, thank you very much. And if you have any questions, so I think it will be better for us when you are able to.
Yes, ma'am. We have also received some
write it
from the participants. I have posted it in the Google Meet chat box too. So, question number 1. How much span of time is required as per your studies to overcome the crisis and bounce back to normal culture life in Poland?
So is the question on the chat as well?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so Bożena, could you answer the first one? When there is a significant disruption in
yes, you can
social...
answer. You can answer. When there is a significant disruption in social ties and cultural mingling, how can cultural and social well-being be possible in the current pandemic time?
Bożena, do you see it? We don't hear you. Bożena?
Ma'am, kindly unmute your mic and speak, ma'am. Bożena, ma'am, kindly unmute your mic.
Bożena, we can't hear you. You have to turn on.
It's very hard to understand because I have a problem with connections. The only thing I see, this is some suggestions on chat. Do you want from me to answer all the chat suggestions? There are two notes from Catherine. There was a question of the crisis and bounce back to the normal cultural life in Poland. There was one suggestion from chat. And then European countries have their own cultural phenomenon, which is totally different from Asian countries, especially in the context of India. That's right. But how to span of time is required as per use.
Your voice is echoing, ma'am. Please check your end. Your voice is echoing. Please check your end, ma'am. Bożena, ma'am.
I'm not sure that I understand you well. Kinga, we cannot hear you.
Okay, now maybe. So maybe I will answer a few of them. We do not compare our research with others made in other countries of Europe, because it was our grant, and it was our own idea about the project, and about analyzing of the situation of cultural environment in Polish. So, of course, we use a lot of reports, as Bożena mentioned, created as in European countries, as in Poland, but we do not compare it because it was not the clue of our research. We focus only on the situation and local aid in Polish situation. So we do not. And of course, I agree that the situation in Europe is completely different from the Asia. So, but as I said, we just focus on the situation in Poland.
Maybe I can add something. If you ask us about how the culture operators will bounce back to normal life in Poland, I mean, nowadays lockdown is over. That's I think it's in all European countries. So the culture operators coming back already came back already to their professional life. But of course, they're working still in a threat about the future, because we don't know whether we're going to be a third wave in following October, following. It was something, I was coming out from. Okay, so I was skipped on from my screen. So we don't know what's going on in October, but culture operators receive quite huge funds from local government in Poland, because this local government, is in fact responsible for culture in the city. So that was normally and quite logic that cultural operators will ask local government, which is in fact their partners, for additional fund for that crisis time, and the local government responded to their will, more or less, giving some fund, which I would like to cite some comparison in terms of fund, like in Barcelona, for example, as a city Barcelona, given to cultural operators some kind of 3 million euros as a aid. For example, Paris used to give 15 million euro for cultural operators. I have also the Amsterdam given quite a lot, like 17 million euros for cultural operators. Köln and Ghent together, I mean, separately, they spend about 3 million euro for cultural operators. So when we compare these funds with Polish cities, so Warszawa, Warsaw is the capital of Poland. The local government for capital of Poland is given about 11 million euro for cultural operators, and Krakow, the city which we have also in our research, given about 6 million euros for cultural operators for whole. I mean, this is money for whole 2022. So I mean, it's quite compare this sum. It's not a big differences between the sum. So I think each European cities wanted to I'm thinking responsibility and feel responsibility for the cultural operators in the cities. They try to help. And last my sentence and last my thought is that regardless in Poland, there weren't really procedures, as a rule for crisis situation, especially pandemic situation. In cultural sector in Poland, local city councils reacted quite quickly in preparing aid to artists and cultural operators. So they try to be first, as according to our 6 rules introducing in our presentation, they try to be first and try to be right. And they try to be, right on time, and they try to express empathy. The local government support was not sufficient, as what the responders expressed, and not well organized, that also expressed that, as well as not covered all culture operators' requirement. But it was a kind of solidarity gesture, and also found, but it's because the local government was on time, react first, try to express empathy. I would say that all of this aid was kind of a solidarity gesture, an expression of concern. The city councils tried to do everything they could under the current law to ensure that the culture sector survived the pandemic. And last sentence, it is still a quite of distance between the cultural operators and local government. It's something which was built for last 30 years, this kind of distance between cultural operators in the city and local government. They don't trust each other, especially cultural operators. They keep this distance to the local government, to the politicians, so to say. So they express their distance, that they don't trust them. And that was very important to find out whether they will build trust after pandemic, because the local government try to help them, and because they expressed empathy, and because they were first and they were on time. So maybe this situation, this turning point, will change this distance in the future, and they became closer, and this link will be. They will be more trustful. They all together and each to each other, and they will a bit change that state. We don't know. We will see in the future, but definitely turning point evoked changes. This turning point, which was crisis, evoked changes. Like they have to discuss. They have to discuss each other. They have to ask each other about what the government could do and what the responders wanted to or required from the government. So that the dialogue was needed, and the more openness to each other was needed in the time. So that is very interesting. Whether this sense has been changed, will be changed in the future, and there will be more closer, and that they will create partnership. Maybe more. There will be more partners to each other. That's for me. That's all for me. I cannot hear you, Kinga.
Okay, so I think it is turned off automatically. So there was one more question: how much time is needed to overcome crisis to normal cultural life in Poland? So I think that the question is really difficult to answer, because the pandemic time is still going on, and we are waiting for the third and fourth wave. And I think that I do not know if it's possible to return to the normality defined as before the pandemic time. But what we already observed is that some changes in the cultural sector were done. For example, the transferring many activities to the internet, what we mentioned, or creating in the hybrid way. So I do not sure that we are able to come back to the normality as such as before the pandemic time, but for sure the pandemic will change a lot in the cultural sector, in the sense, as Bożena said, in the sense of relationship between governments and cultural representative, and between people who are indeed in the cultural sector, but as well in the audience abilities, in the audience behavior, and in the way of creation. So I hope that we give answer and all of questions.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for addressing our questions too. Thank you so much. Nandini, you can continue now.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much for your informative session, ma'am. Now I invite Ms. K. Devendra Kulathirumahal, Assistant Professor, Lakshmi College of Education, Gandhigram, to deliver the token of gratitude. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you, Nandini. Am I audible, Nandini?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So, most respected dignitaries, resource person, and participants, and my dear friends, a very good afternoon to one and all. It's an immense pleasure for me for giving me this wonderful opportunity to deliver the vote of thanks for this second session of our today event. So first of all, I convey my sincere thanks to our God Almighty for making event a grand success. No event can be successful without people who dedicate their resources and time to make sure everything is faultless. Yes, today we have both eminent rockers as a resource person from Poland. On behalf of Tamil Nadu Teacher Education University and Lakshmi College of Education, Gandhigram, I extend my gratitude to our resource person, Dr. Kinga Anna Gajida, and Dr. Vozina Zirat Fiaran, Faculty of International and Political Studies, Institute of European Studies, Jagiellonian University, Poland. Both of us spend their busiest time on gracing this occasion. Thank you very much. Ma'am, today we had the opportunity to hear your thoughts on crisis and challenges of COVID-19 on cultural and social well-beings. And your thoughts have enlightened our mind and shown us a new path in the area of research. Simply said, it's very resourceful and thought-provoking session, ma'am. Thank you very much for both of you to share your research experience with us. And I have a responsibility to extend my gratitude to the first lesson resource person, Dr. Priyadashini Muthukrishnan, ma'am, from Malaysia. Thank you very much for your acceptance to share your knowledge and time with us, ma'am. It's a very wonderful session. Thank you very much, Dr. Muthukrishnan, Priyadashini Muthukrishnan, ma'am. Thank you. And I extend my gratitude to Mr. M. Kalaivani, ma'am, for her introduction about her second session resource person. Thank you, Kalaivani, ma'am. Thank you, one and all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you all. Thank you, Gazada ma'am and Buzina ma'am, for supporting us in organizing this program. Thank you for your support and your presence in this platform. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. And thank you, participants. Your presence made this day a memorable one. Thank you for your kind cooperation. Dear participants, subscribe our YouTube channel, Lakshmi College of Education, and the feedback form will be posted in the chat box. Kindly fill the form before 2 p.m. We will meet you on the next session. Thank you once again. Thank you all.